The opening sequence of episode 70 drops us right back into the cell alongside Falco and Gabi. This episode is all about the contradictory and often nonsensical decision-making we see with these super radicalized characters, and more importantly, how their own allies begin to question their motives. With Gabi and Falco, that push-pull dynamic is immediately on display. She first fakes a seizure and then bashes a dude's head in with a brick, which, not normal. But moments after they escape, Falco just asks, why run away? I mean, they are on an island, so there's not exactly a lot of ways to get off said island, and not exactly many places to go, but Gabi just responds with our usual devil shtick and basically says that they were going to be killed. That obviously doesn't make a lot of sense. If they were going to be killed, they'd be long dead, and the garrison dude immediately went to check on her, even knowing that she is technically an enemy soldier. Were they going to be questioned? Absolutely, but it was made pretty clear that they have no intentions of offing a couple of kids. But far more importantly, we see her spiral even further, with her now saying that she can't even trust Zeke or anyone else. This is the perfect showcase of just how well Marley's propaganda machine had worked on her. It was never even about following a commander or a leader. It was always about just blind loyalty to a single ideology. Even when the very person who fed her that propaganda in the first place starts giving her different signals, instead of questioning her own beliefs, she slaps the same label on him. The only times we've seen Gabi push back is when characters like Reiner, for example, start to say something that doesn't align with the Paradisian devils thing. This is also why these radicalized societies most often just implode on themselves. Their ideology just spirals out of the leader's control. It becomes a self-reinforcing cycle of paranoia that inevitably backfires, and well, the entire society just starts infighting. We've already seen early signs of this with the Marleyan commanders questioning the true history behind the conflict, as well as, again, Gabi's world shifting as Reiner accidentally described the Paradisians as all kinds of people and not just devils. Plenty more on this throughout the episode, as Gabi is just one angle to this entire conversation, but TLDR, her fantastical ramblings have hit their crescendo, and this is the episode where those ramblings are going to be challenged by, well, reality. Back in Marley, Reiner shoots awake with Porco and Peak once again being there to greet him, just like we saw in episode 61. Only this time, Reiner's not the only messed up one, and we see beds full of soldiers. There is no, admittedly pretty bitter, but banter between them. It was their home that suffered an attack, and so Porco just says that he wishes it were all a dream. After getting a bit of a wake-up moment himself with the scouts' assault on Liberio, his opinion of Reiner evolves quite a bit, and it becomes quite hard to hate the guy who saved you from quite literally being eaten. Unfortunately for old Porcupine, he wouldn't exactly be living long, but he would still get to take one last shot at Reiner, so there's that, I guess. As for Reiner, the only thing he cares about at this point is Falco and Gabi. After meeting Eren, and in many ways feeling liberated, he would be 100% done, had it not be for them. And we of course know that they are on Paradis, and so, yeah, Reiner is about to lock back in. As for the title of Impostors, or Deceiver, depending on the translation, this one applies to basically every point of view character in this episode. Falco and Gabi are the obvious candidates for being impostors and deceivers on Paradis. And with this deceit, Gabi's story also revolves around Zeke. The same thing applies to Eren, around whom the whole Yeagerist plot revolves around. All of that is based in deceit. Same goes for Hanji and the press. Might not be outward lies, but there's a lot of deceit. Same goes for Mikasa and Louise. Mikasa would face a very rude awakening, and so she does lie. Like I said a minute ago, this entire episode is about these contradictory motives now clashing right here on the island among people who were supposed to be allies. Whether that is Gabi and Zeke or Hanji and the Yeagerists, it is very much a rock and a hard place situation. Their allies are quickly becoming their enemies. All of the fundamental reasoning for the rumbling plan, or whatever else kind of plan to ensure that they're safe from the outside world, kind of fall away because we have conflict within the society. More on that in a minute. Moving into the episode, we open with this picturesque shot of the forest. The lush and vibrant trees contrasting the dreamy mountainscape in the distance. Considering the environmental storytelling we saw with Trost, for example, I think this is very much deliberate and is there to challenge Gabi's perception of these devils. Their home is not some military compound or hellscape of titans. It is a lush land full of promise and potential, infinitely more than the concrete prison that was Liberio. Falco tells her to get rid of the armband, trying to convince her that is just unnecessary risk. Gabi, however, brushes it off, saying no one's going to recognize it anyway. It's self-imposed chains that Gabi refuses to let go of and even begins to defend. In some twisted way, just like Reiner before her, she has grown to love those chains that are holding her back. It gives her safety and purpose. It validates her ramblings about the evil island devils, because what is she without that armband? What becomes of her world when there is no piece of cloth telling her that she is one of the good ones? Falco keeps pressuring her, saying they don't even know when or if they'll have a way back home, just asking, why take the risk? But Gabi again says she just doesn't care. She says she needs answers from Zeke before they are caught and killed. And notice how with every new sentence out of Gabi's mouth, she betrays a little bit of what's going on inside. Despite all of her ramblings, yet again, we see the simple question of why? Just like Eren, Reiner, Armin, and countless others, Gabi is stuck between the narrative she has convinced herself and the reality of what the world is actually like. On one hand, her obsessiveness over the island devils is clearly self-destructive. She is so convinced of that fact that she explicitly states that she can't even trust Zeke. But on the other hand, she wants to ask him why. If she was truly convinced that he is a traitorous devil like the rest, then what is there to talk about? It is a devil to be smited down, right? But then, Falco locks the hell in and says, if I can do whatever, I'll do this, and rips off the armband. Gabi immediately starts fuming, and all of that pain comes pouring out. She has internalized this fantasy for so long that the symbol of her own oppression has somehow become a badge of honor. Considering this is, again, exactly what we saw with Reiner and his dad, it might seem like that she is already beyond saving, since, Reiner still did all the bad stuff even after realizing that it is just a meaningless piece of cloth. But we already know that Gabi is different. She admires Reiner more than anyone, and he just so happens to be the one who accidentally rattled her big time. Now, it's only a matter of time before she comes to that conclusion herself. This is one of the reasons why I keep describing Gabi and Falco as deconstructions of Eren's character for this entire season. They explore certain characteristics of him, and in many ways, the same exact conclusions. But what matters is what comes after that conclusion. With Gabi and Eren, they have both sworn to destroy anything that stands in their way, and have sworn to save their people from an inherited injustice. The big difference is how and when they arrive at the conclusion that the world is not so black and white, and perhaps even more importantly, what comes after. While they're still mauling out at each other, Kaya arrives asking what are they doing in the middle of nowhere so early in the morning. Gabi, being Gabi, immediately reaches for a rock, but Kaya just casually asks whether they're hungry and says that she lives nearby. Just like with the picturesque forest, this is another vibe check for Gabi, because how could a devil just offer her food and a place to stay? Before we continue with the deconstruction of Gabi, we cut to the Brown stables. Now, you might have seen very spooky CG horses, but have you seen PNG horses? Look at them. They thought I wouldn't notice because they're 2D. I did notice. The only moving one is CG, and you conveniently pan over, and all the rest of them are just PNGs. You have no idea how scared I am about Steel Ball Run. Gabi also immediately says that they should just steal a horse and run, but she doesn't know how to ride a horse, so that is definitely one of the plans of all time. As we meet Archer and the rest of the Braus family, Gabi notes that they have a Southern Marleyan accent, and yes, another reminder that I did indeed take an L when we were talking about all the Marleyan Eldian language stuff, because I forgot that there were actually accents on Paradis as well. It's mostly just flavor text, but still, big L on my part. Obligatory reminder though, the Eldian and Marleyan languages are the same when spoken, but they are written in different scripts. So if you remember the whole can of herring thing, yes, you can't read it, but the spoken language is the same and they can still communicate. This is a thing that exists in the real world as well, so this isn't just like a convenient situation of this magical language that exists in multiple versions. Very realistic, 10 out of 10 no notes, but yes, I did forget about the fact that there were indeed accents also on the island. Falco introduces them as Ben and Mia. Gabi herself would later also ask where he got the names from, but I don't think there's much of a meaning beyond them just being super popular and generic. At least nowadays, they're among the most popular names in Germany, so I don't think there's any kinda galaxy brain permutations of letters or anything like that. Except they're Mia right now, because, MIA, missing an act. Okay, fine, I'll shut up. Falco offers to do whatever work they need, so long as they can stay for just a few days. But My absolute goat Archer immediately says that he doesn't want to see youngins bowing like that. The cognitive dissonance in this entire sequence is just wild. Our point of view characters are Falco and Gabi, both of whom, to varying degrees, consider everyone here as a potential threat. The fall of Marley is playing in the background, something that carries a very twisted meaning considering that is the night where Archer's daughter was shot dead by the person he now offers a safe home and food. We smash cut to this super hearty meal and a scene that is so impossibly vibrant when compared to the cold monotony of their home in Liberio. The fall of Marley just continues to escalate as we see the family all around the table. Archer and Lisa both smile, saying they should get some rest after eating. But there is always this horror in Gabi's eyes. Her entire worldview is slowly coming apart and she is doing her best to somehow make it make sense. And to again emphasize that duality of Falco and Gabi versus Eren, some of the profile shots we get of Gabi straight up frame her as Eren. Just like when he reached Marley and partied long into the night with the locals before coming face to face with the horrors that he himself has created, Gabi too struggles to make sense of what it is she's even seeing. Lisa goes to pat Gabi on the head, but she instinctively swats the hand away. Naturally, they assume that she must have seen abuse and that there must be some kind of trauma, but the entire scene is just chilling. Gabi's hand is trembling as she struggles to even accept the food. It's yet another impossible boundary that she must cross. This wasn't supposed to happen. They weren't supposed to give her food. They were supposed to attack. She just can't grasp why she is not being attacked. And even beyond all that, I think this is another instance of the show challenging the viewers' perceptions. On one hand, let's be real, we are all big mad at Gabi. She killed Sasha, and she now has the audacity to play victim while being served food by her grieving parents? We almost want to see her mess up and just get captured. But at the same time, when she eats that spoonful of food, it is so much progress. Just like Falco ripping off the armband, it is another chain that has now been broken. She swallows that bitter pride and acknowledges help. She acknowledges human kindness with no devils in sight. A lifetime of brainwashing will never unravel quickly, nor should it. It would just be unrealistic and kinda silly for a story like Attack on Titan. But throughout the season, throughout this episode, and throughout some of the next, brick by brick by brick, that wall is crumbling. And also, complete side note, remember that this is the same family which struggled with food. For their entire lifetime, for Sasha's entire upbringing, they never had enough. But now, they are sharing it with everyone, even the killers of their own daughter. It is so cruel, but so beautiful. I just adore how Isayama kept using these subtle signifiers of humanity, but also of her own oppression to convey her journey. And this is not even the best part. Cinema. On the other side of the island, we see Atsumabito meeting with Zachary and congratulating them on their successful campaign. And she also notes that she has brought the first ever plane for their observations, which yes, is a very blatant Chekhov's gun. I've already yapped plenty about the strategic implications of them now having air superiority, so I won't rehash all that again, but yes, a plane is a massive deal. Still speaking of the very successful campaign, we see a massive crowd gathering around Hanji and demanding answers about what's going on with Eren. Remember that one of the things that made the public get behind the scouts was the fact that everything was out in the open. They exposed the false king, they acquired the Iceburst Stone, and they made it their mission to run a completely transparent government. But now, when they ask about Eren, Hanji is speechless because no one knows what's going on. It's not even about keeping the public in the dark, it's about the scouts themselves being in the dark. We also see Reeves, someone who of course played a huge role in helping out the scouts carry out their mission in the Royal Government arc. He wants to know why they're evacuating Shiganshina, saying he's putting so much resources into rebuilding it. The reason for that is the small-scale rumbling, but even that is now up in the air because Eren is not cooperating. Paradis now has total journalistic freedom, but in times of crisis, that freedom can only worsen this kind of panic. This guy, for example, whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce, has only grown more bold since we saw him in Season 3, now explicitly saying Eren's victory is a path to their future. It's not even about getting information, it's about already pushing a narrative. I think it's interactions like this that perfectly encompass the political intrigue and complexity of information trickling down to the public. On one hand, an informed population, and even more so, journalists that will challenge authority, is the single most powerful tool against a power grab akin to the False King. Once judges and public information channels are compromised, it's basically GG's for public freedoms because they are literally operating on deliberately falsified information. That is literally the story of seasons 1 to 3. The scouts operating in the dark and constantly being faced with extra challenges that, as it turns out, were not even challenges because the walls already knew about a lot of the stuff. But on the other hand, complex decisions that require long-term planning and will have major trade-offs are very hard to grasp for the average person. On an individual level, most decision-making will always be self-referential. It's just our survivor instinct and our monkey brains. It is what it is. That is exactly why you need a decision body to make sure that these self-interests don't compromise the greater goal. If we look at our own history, during World War II for example, huge chunks of the American public believed that appeasement is a viable solution. In theory, you could just stay out of it. It's so far away, it doesn't impact my tomorrow morning. Why bother? That obviously aged like milk, because that's not how the world works. You might not care about geopolitics, but geopolitics will most certainly care about you. And the same thing is true for the reverse. The population of Paradis sees just about any strike against Marley as a massive W, regardless of the strategic or political gain. For the average person, it is entirely about optics. The scouts were wasting resources when they kept dying outside of the walls. Wait a minute, they just discovered Ice Burst Stone? Oh wait, now we have a Titan on our side. The scouts are the best thing ever. Just like Magath warned in Marley, the public just sees the headlines. They don't feel it on their own skin, and they are not thinking long term. In Paradis' situation, they don't know about Zeke, they don't know about the Rumbling Plan or the Royal Blood or the weaponry on both sides or the countless complexities involved with these strategic goals. All that matters is just that they hit Marley. It is an excellent small-scale example of the same problems we are dealing with even in the present day, for the simple reason of there not really being a perfect answer for this in either direction. It's an information problem for what are fundamentally emotional beings, so it's bound to create friction. We then cut to Hanji confronting the leakers, with everyone's least favorite Ripsaw Blade Hairman being the obvious frontrunner. He says Eren should be freed because he hasn't done anything wrong, and let's stop right there because, no, he, literally has. And I mean this, legally. He disobeyed a clear order. That's a crime. It doesn't matter whether you agree with him or not, and yes, he didn't betray Paradis to aid the enemy, but this is still treason. Funny goofies aside, Fla goes on to talk about the new Eldian Empire, which, again, major red flag, but Hanji very simply says, we don't even know if the rumbling is real. Which, yes, and by the way, I think this is something that is not talked about nearly enough. When we talk about their decision-making, we need to put ourselves in the shoes of the Paradisians. Don't forget that a good 80% of the conversations we are having are either based on just assumptions or quote-unquote research that involves one data point, a random encounter with Dina 5 years ago. Remember Season 3, where we went through rigorous training to see how Eren's transformations work? Yeah, that is what you need to construct an actual plan that might potentially deal with existential issues. What were they going to do if they unleashed the rumbling, but there were way too many Colossals and Eren wasn't experienced enough to control them, and they literally wiped out the island? There are Erwin's gambles, and then there is whatever this is, a plan where basically nothing is actually known. The visual direction here is also great. The camera puts us on the outside with this clear divide between them. There is no single whole. Our perspective is no longer rooted to a single party. We are merely looking in as one's allies begin to diverge. Hanji continues saying, you might be right, I've already accepted Zeke's plan. Therefore, I won't tolerate disobedience. Now, Hanji might claim that Erwin made a mistake in naming his successor, but this is, exactly what he would do. Remember that Erwin kept even people like Mike in the dark because he needed everyone to be predictable. He as the commander made a call. A lot of those calls were very risky, so in order to minimize the extra risk that isn't necessary, everyone else just needs to fall in line. That's how chain of command works. You can't build a plan that gambles on the island's existence when one of your own starts randomly disobeying orders and prematurely dragging you into conflict. Imagine Season 1 and the whole female Titan mission. Erwin had the trap set in the forest, and basically no one was aware of what's actually going on. Imagine if Eren randomly popped his Titan form before they ever got to the forest. The scouts would be obliterated on an open field. Just like we saw with Armin having doubts about Eren, under Erwin's lead, Eren would either fall in line or be stripped of his titans. Simple as. This is no longer season 1, 2, or even parts of 3, where Erwin was the replaceable one and Eren was indispensable. They know how to transfer titans. This entire cooperation between the scouts and Eren began only because Eren swore his loyalty. If that alliance becomes flimsy, what reason is there not to pass on his titans? Erwin has sacrificed dozens of his own men already. What's one more? Or actually, let's be real here, 2 more, because Zeke would be instantly offed, like there is no chance of any of this happening. Except that is also not true, because Eren can only transfer his titans to Grisha because he comes in contact with Zeke. That is already predetermined. It cannot change. So, yeah. This is a joke about me writing a what if Erwin survived video, by the way. It's very hard to talk about any what ifs if you want to actually, work by the rules of Attack on Titan. But Hanji then talking about trying them for leaking the intel opens a whole different can of worms, because it's not that simple now, is it? Now, we have a bit of a prisoner's dilemma. The public has already bought into the Yeagerists' plan and support Eren. Wouldn't detaining them only validate their message? We have a natural, and I think perfectly justified bias to want to pay more attention to things that the authorities are trying to smother out. So, from the public's point of view, what if the scouts are hiding Eren because what he is doing is the correct option? What if that's the truth? Again, I have to stress this, when it comes to optics and when it comes to perception, facts do not matter. Perception is reality. And yes, let's not build suspense, that is literally what happens. This only emboldens the Yeagerists. Plenty more on this in the following episodes, but it is another very good showcase of the sort of inescapable box that Paradis is now in. When the population starts to create this echo chamber, it's kind of a lose-lose situation on all sides. No matter what you do, there's going to be a bad outcome. You want to punish them, it's gonna be a bad outcome. You don't punish them, it's gonna be a bad outcome. And on a very similar note, we cut to Louise and Mikasa, where we get another very, very interesting scene. Louise asks whether she has ever been in a cell, to which Mikasa says no. And wait just a minute, Mikasa, lying is bad. You have been in a cell, right beside your own little favorite Eren. I think a lot of the interactions between Louise and Mikasa in this episode are designed to challenge Mikasa's perception of herself, especially in regard to her admiration and loyalty to Eren. Later, we'd get the whole scarf moment, but even now, it's creating this very uncomfortable mirror for Mikasa that she is forced to look into. Both of them were detained for disobeying orders and fighting back. Both of them admire Eren and would follow him into just about anything. Both of them were saved by him, or in Louise's case, his absolute closest, Mikasa. In many ways, they are exactly the same. Louise says that she doesn't regret what she did, saying if victory is the goal, obeying laws isn't the end-all be-all, right? Number 1, yeah, no, Louise, that is a very, very bad thing to even entertain. If you create a weapon, in this case the belief that laws shouldn't be enforced because my cause is superior, it's only a matter of time before that will loop right back around and come swinging at you because someone else's cause will be superior to yours. Disregarding all of that will destroy the system you claim to be fighting for. Laws and order is meant to be impartial. That is what you fight to preserve. But number 2, Louise then steps a little too close for comfort, asking, why did Mikasa join the scouts? If it was all just to protect Eren, well then...
Keep your mouth shut, Louise.
Mikasa knows that everything she is saying is true for her, but she doesn't want to admit it or agree with it. That contradiction is tearing her apart. Much like Falco, Gabi, and Reiner all work to question Eren's motives, Louise is that for Mikasa. She cannot deny her belief in Eren. No matter what he does, in her mind, it will always be rooted in protecting her. She trusts Armin with her life, and she will follow him, but deep down, she knows that Eren comes first, and admitting that is very, very painful. Even as she would literally watch Eren's actions actively contradict that belief, she still believes it. This is perfect character drama, and I desperately wish we got to see more of this. This is where we leave them for now, but we'll of course loop back to this once we hit that excellent crescendo between our two main strugglers. Cutting on over to the Midcard, they talk a little bit more about the history and now present day regarding the whole Devils of Paradis. I think the most important part here is, now that the threat posed by Eren Yeager has come to light, the derogatory name is becoming truth. Which, yeah, Eren's attack might have been very useful, but it also kinda sorta validated literally everything Willy was saying, which is not exactly great. I already yapped all about the optics angle of this back in Liberia, so let's just move on. Something I haven't yapped about is what we see with Pixis and Yelena. Our resident big brain is connected to the dots and realized that the guards watching Yelena were suddenly changed to flock, something that is clearly very, very sus. For the sake of time, we'll leave this for when we get to the flashbacks in episode 87, but this is where that entire entangled web of who knows what happened, and unfortunately, Pixis caught on just a teeny bit too late to actually stop it. Returning to Gabi and Falco though, the horse suddenly screams out, "My soldiers rage," and attacks in the name of Sasha. I would joke about how this must be the work of an enemy stand or Eldian devil or whatever, but she literally says that, so it's not really a joke, I guess. Kaya calls them for lunch, saying they're really hard workers. And okay, real talk, what's up with Marley and warriors coming to the island and constantly stealing everyone's thunder? Like, the entire warrior squad ranked in the top 5 for the MPs because they're literally elite soldiers already. And now we have these guys showing up and cosplaying just a pair of kids when they are elite soldiers. Not cool. Kaya goes on to explain that basically everyone here is an orphan and that the queen gives a lot of support for the kids without families. We already heard about this back in season 3. As soon as Astoria became queen, she and Levi created this whole support network for orphans. Considering how important heritage and the place you are born with will be in just a second, this being an orphanage is already an example of how, given enough support and understanding, they become irrelevant. She says most of them lost their parents 4 years ago. We are very used to this always referencing the fall of Shiganshina, but remember that this is post-time skip. So 4 years ago is season 2 and 3. Everyone here are orphans because of what happened in Trost, Ragako, and presumably also the return to Shiganshina mission. Gabi starts rambling about the atrocities of the people of this island, which is all kinds of messed up. All of the pain that she harbors inside of her, these kids feel it. That irony is just completely lost on her.
I guess that's
Why
what
would
they
you
teach
say
you
something
back in
like that to
Marley?
someone who's helping? Well, wait a minute, what did you just say?
You're on the run because you're from Marley, right?
Gabi and Falco just got their own Rhino reveal, but yeah, she knew. Falco and Gabi start bickering and grabbing pitchforks and whatnot, but the underlying meaning in all of this is that she doesn't care. Childhood in Attack on Titan was always used to express raw and unfiltered emotions. They are the foundations that shape the person's identity, whether that is the unshackled rage of Eren and Gabi, or in this case, the purity of Kaya. Very rarely do we get these scenes where a child meets another child, and the exchange between them is unburdened and just raw. Now faced with someone so similar to herself, Gabi's world continues to crumble. For what is the first ever time, she denies her own belief.
There's no way an island devil would actually be that nice!
Stop! Don't be...
And what follows is a concentrated version of the entire Attack on Titan story. A story of inherited burdens and inescapable contradictions. A story of generational cruelty and historical guilt met with the beauty of today. A innocent child who doesn't know why she lost her parents. All of that is compressed into this completely unfiltered clashing of two sides, neither of which truly understands. Kaya recounts the story of her mother, saying she couldn't run. I didn't know what to do, so I just sat and watched. After a while, she went silent. She probably lost her voice from all the screaming. With every word that leaves Kaya's mouth, Gabi's mind just continues to spiral. Yes, this is how it should be. This is what they deserve. For thousands of years, they made the world suffer. They started this whole Titan business. We are only fighting back. Finally, they will pay. With every escalatory accusation, Kaya continues to ask simple questions with no ideology or history or anything. Thousands of years? Why my mom? She lived her entire life here. A century? What about us? How have we sinned? Gabi fires back saying, you just trampled my home, but again, Kaya says, my mom died 4 years ago. Gabi's world, it just collapses. The timeline, the story, reality doesn't make sense. The monster, the devil in her head, is standing in front of her and asking about her mother. She keeps asking, it doesn't make any sense. My mom never hurt anyone. Is the world really that cruel? Why? Why was she killed? Why? And that's it. Gabi has nothing, because there is nothing. Falco just recounts the entire mission, saying she never did anything wrong. She just got caught up in the invasion. And finally, he just apologizes. Undoing all of this generational brainwashing would still take quite a bit longer, but we get another tiny step, with Kai saying, "It's weird, you shouldn't have to apologize for Marley, you just happened to be born there." And again, cinema. This single line is the story of Attack on Titan. So much of the story deals with free will and inheritance versus the here and now. Whether it's Titans or this war or even interpersonal relationships, it's the one constant theme that permeates this entire story. And the sad reality is, there is no clean answer. Both sides have done indescribable things, both in the past and in the present. The Eldian king started this war, and his cruelty created Ymir. Marley just fought back, and so back and forth it went. At some point, someone has to answer for that. It's not the children, it's not their mothers or fathers, not the civilians. No one should ever be born with some inherited burden. So who? Where do you draw that line? Who is responsible, and how do you stop this? How do you escape this contradiction of Gabi and Eren both being victims of the cycle, but also being the ones permeating it? Kaya and Gabi should neither be born with the guilt of an empire, nor should Ramsey or a baby inherit the guilt of some other empire. This isn't justice or ideology, it's just common sense and reason. Kaya doesn't offer a solution or an opposing ideology. She simply tells the story of the girl who saved her, Sasha, saying if she were alive, she wouldn't have abandoned you. And the beautiful thing is that all of this happening proves that she never did. Kaya knew they were Marleyan, but she took them in, she fed them, she covered for them, and never blamed them for anything, even when one of them threatened to kill her. Kaya never abandoned them. In spite of it all, she offered them just about the only lifeline to their home. To her, this isn't about nations, it's about people. About Sasha, Kaya, about Eren and Gabi, all caught in a war built on inherited, senseless hatred. Hatred that seems so easy to dispel, but here we are. Did you already forget this is Attack on Titan? We just got a glimmer of hope, it's time to shoot it down. In the post-credits scene, we see Magath basically say, "Yup, the whole Zeke thing was a smokescreen and he has been a rat for months." But when he says that the Global Alliance will launch an attack in 6 months, Reiner immediately locks in. He argues that this is exactly what they're banking on. Zeke knows how they operate, and if they let him plan, there'll be nothing they can do. Thing is, we know that Reiner really doesn't care about what happens to Paradis, or what Zeke is doing, or really any of this. What matters to him is that Gabi and Falco need him today. And so with that, our teeny tiny moment of respite is over, and Marley are on their way back. This time with a little more than a handful of shifters, and also with Paradis once again on the back foot and kind of at each other's throats. I'm sure this will end well. And with that, that is episode 70. I know I've already said this multiple times, but I do think this is one of the most underrated episodes of the season. This one is just pure character drama, and I love it. All that being said, enough emotional yappers, because next time, well, things are not exactly getting better, and they are in fact only getting worse. So, I hope to see you back as we continue overanalyzing Attack on Titan. And that's the video. Whenever I was thinking about this episode, I always expected this to be one of the double episode uploads, but it really didn't turn out that way now, did it? That being said though, I already made a community post about this, but just in case you didn't see it, if you like Attack on Titan, go play Expedition 33. It is absolutely incredible, it absolutely nails that bleak, fatalistic vibe that Attack on Titan has as well. If you want to see the prologue, I played through that on stream, and that is up on my second channel. I don't want to spoil anything else, but really, if you like Attack on Titan, if you like the ideas of Attack on Titan, go play the game or watch someone else play it. There is a very, very good chance I might end up making a main channel video about it as well. All that being said, I want to give a massive thank you to our current patrons and YouTube members who allow me to produce even more of these for you all. And let's also give a warm welcome to the newest member of the team, Ratcliffe. Without you, there'd be a whole lot less of my rambling, so seriously, thank you, thank you. Other than that, I want to say thank you very much for watching, I hope you have a great day, and hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!